Fact number one is we are, as an organism, we are an entirely material process. There is no other outside of what's happening at the cellular, molecular, atomic structures, and those interactions with our environment, within our environment, which is our brain in our bodies, sensing our environment and responding to our environment. There is no consciousness or soul, self, that's independent of the physical brain. That's a fact. There's no you that exists independently of your physical body. There's no personal identity that can function outside of the physical organism. Dreams can create false perceptions of reality that one could believe that one is or could have been someone else at another time. I have found myself dreaming that I'm not this person, but I'm someone else. You can't remember who or what you were before you started to emerge into existence. So what I mean by that is you didn't just immediately appear as a fully functionally cognizant sentient being. You had to gradually emerge from a sleep that you were as a small child. You emerged into an aware sentient being, and that was a gradual process. So anyone that makes claims as to they believe that they had existed before this body, if they say they had another body, then they're lying, because the continuity of their consciousness is dependent on the physical structure of their brain. So if their brain emerged and grew from a fetus into an infant, into an adult, there was no transfer of information across non-existence from being a fully formed organism at this stage, and then making claims to being informed at another growth period independent of their organism now and here. That is just misinterpretation of a dream or of a sense that they've been before. Now, someone could make they could build a fantasy in their mind that they were somebody else by a lot of interest in a subject, and they go into delve into it, or maybe they have a relative that looks like them, that was a great uncle or a great grandfather. There's an old painting or an old photo in an old family photo album that they look at and they think that looks just like me. And for me personally, I have a great grandfather that looks like me in a photo album. But as far as there was a scientist that tried to demonstrate acquired characteristics. I think he wanted to try to show that an organism could pass on a trait that was acquired through learning experience or a physical change in the organism. So there was like mice, and the mice were all taught each generation of the mouse was taught to run through the maze, and then the next generation was supposedly able to run the maze easier because the previous generation had passed on the informed cells. The cells of the first generation were informing through the process of the reproduction. The gametes contained within the structures of the chromosomes, that information was there. So that was it's an idea that somehow if you can learn, then when you have a child, your knowledge could be passed on to your child. Or in another way, if you were a bodybuilder and you build your body up, then you're having a kid. Your kid would be born more prone to be strong, which has been falsified. This is demonstrated to be not true. That the characteristics are acquired. So in a way, you could conjecture that your you could imagine that you could have been your great grandfather, and that you are that same person today because you look like that person. You have the same physical features as that person. But it's not. You're not that person. You as an individual here and now have only been this one time. That's a fact. As far as we know.